Every once in a while, someone will post a picture on social media slating a bird of prey display. And it's one of those things that falconers can look at and see the issues with, whereas most members of the public wouldn't actually know what is wrong with it. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how we set up a professional static display with birds of prey and everything that is required to keep it that way. The first requirement is to have a cordoned off area for the birds to go into. This is something that the insurance company will always demand as well, so it really is a very important element. You have to be able to cordon off the birds safely, that's going to be good for the birds and allow the public to view them. Now, most falconers will use this type of netting system. Simply pins and a netting that you can pick up from your local hardware warehouse type shop. And they come in different colours, which is a benefit. We've just chosen green today. You can change the shape as you wish. You can sort of have a long, thin display, a big, wide one. Have it as big as you like, essentially. And you can also have, like this, a sort of gate option, so we can close off the display like so if we wish, and have it so that there's no access whatsoever. If we're doing handling, we might do something like that so we can get in and out. If it's a very busy event, have someone on the front kind of managing the display. You can use wooden fencing, like picket fencing, or even solid fencing. I do know a few falconers who do that, and that's usually because they're stopping dogs from being able to see their birds and vice versa. We have birds that are pretty much used to dogs quite well, so we don't mind dogs being around the edge as long as it stops anything coming in and children running in very quickly and things like that. So the disadvantage of the wooden fencing is that it's quite cumbersome and chunky, whereas this rolls up nice and tidy, fits into the back of a car quite easily, and it's just the easiest to use. Therefore, it's the most common type of barrier that's used for static displays. The second thing that is needed is a gazebo or some kind of shelter. Now, this isn't always essential. If the weather isn't particularly warm or wet or anything like that, it can be done without a shelter, and that would be considered a weathering day or a weathering session, where the birds of prey on display are going to get some sunshine for their vitamin D absorption and conversion, but not going to get too hot. Obviously, if it is a really warm day, then we need to provide shade for our birds, and if it's likely to have some rain or showers, then again a cover is necessary. Now, these are just basic, cheap, kind of not super cheap, but basic level gazebos, pop-up gazebos, and it doesn't really make a difference whether you have this kind of level or you were to spend thousands of pounds on something bigger and tougher. It really doesn't make much of a difference as long as it's a good quality, and of course it doesn't leak, and the easier to put up the better. So pop-up designs are the best way of doing it. When it comes to wind, you've got to bear in mind that these gazebos are like a kite on a windy day. So if they're not weighted down or pegged down well, they can just take off. So these are pegged in currently. There are guide ropes, which I haven't bothered to tie them for this demo, but you can tie them down with pegs or even to the pins on the edge as well. And of course, if the ground is very, very hard, or even on some sort of concrete substrate, then weighted bags, either sandbags or water weights, are going to be required to hold them down. You need to have a good level of cover as well, and of course the sun does move around, and it's a nice warm day today. We can see where the shade is very clearly and where the sun is, and that's something we've got to monitor throughout the day. If we want full cover, we might need even more gazebos to give us plenty of surface area. And when it comes to substrate as well, grass really is the best type for the birds to be on, and if you ever find someone on concrete, then really there should be some astroturf down, just so there's something softer. So if the bird does jump down the ground, it's softer on the ground like grass is, and if the wings or the feathers are going to touch the ground as well, then it's something nice and soft too. Once the barrier and the gazebos are set up, we're ready to get the birds out. And today I've just got 2 birds of prey just to show as an example. 2 very different birds, a barn owl and a Harris hawk. Now, one of the things that's really important is that the right perches are used. And I've got 2 examples here, an Arab style block perch with the astroturf on that the barn owl's currently on, and a bow perch with the rubber mould that the hawk is on. Now, it doesn't really matter whether a barn owl is on a block or a hawk's on a perch with a bow or whatever way around it is, as long as the perch is appropriate. You can use tall perches as well, and as long as the bird can access the floor and the water with that tall perch, there's no issue. Now, Arab blocks are the best type to use really, because the bird can't get too far away, and if you're having multiple birds in one area, you've got to remember that they're all killing machines. They're all predators and hunters. They could eat each other, especially here with a hawk near a barn owl. So one of the things we must do is have lots of space between the 2. And as you can see here, there is a big space between the barn owl and the hawk. If either one was to jump down, they're not going to be able to get near each other, especially the hawk near the barn owl. There's also a lot of space between the barriers and the birds. Now, there's nothing wrong with having birds at the front down here, but you've just got to be aware of how close they are to the barrier and not allowing people to get their hands through and touch them, children, things like that, because you don't want the bird to jump down and hit its wings on the netting or on a gazebo leg or anything like that. That's a kind of feather conditioned element. And of course, it should have access to fresh water as well. We've got these plant bowls here, which are a lot cheaper than the big fiberglass expensive falconry dishes. You can use those if you wish, but many falconers use these because they're a cheaper alternative. You can find them in garden centres. And when operating a handling display like we do, we always select the bird, take it out of the netted area into a safe space away from the display, and then bring it back in one at a time, being very careful when we're in and out with different birds, so again, they can't get near each other. So if you ever come across a bird of prey display that looks a bit like this one here, take a look at the barrier. Is it suitable? Do they have a gazebo or not? Is it necessary? Look at the perches. Are they professional perches with 1 bird at a time? I have seen before really strange displays where people have had multiple birds on one perch, or even had a welded on extra bit on the side. It's really not how you do it at all. They should be on professional falconry perches, which is a good way of demonstrating how we do things in falconry correctly, with the ring that moves, the bird can move around and things like that, the proper astroturf on there or rubber mould for grip, that type of thing. And look at the birds themselves. Are they nice and tame, or are they nervous and jumping about all the time? Are they incredibly noisy? That might not be a sign of nervousness. In fact, it almost never is. More likely an imprint thing, a noisy imprint, but still doesn't look good to the members of the public. And if handling's been offered, is it done in a nice professional way? On a really busy day, we have extra birds, extra staff. We rotate the birds around so all the birds do get breaks, and we're managing not only the birds and the queue that might build up, so that everything's done in a nice, efficient and sensible way. If you have a busy event with lots of people gathered around the birds and there's lots of handling going on and it's a free-for-all, no one's really watching the birds, no one's really taking care of it properly, and it's just not a very professional way of doing it. If it was a quiet event with just a few holds every 10 minutes or so, then of course you don't need to over-manage that one. So I think that covers it, and as always, thanks for watching.